Good morning. We're gonna start making some Baba Ganoush, and it's a really easy start. We're gonna start with an eggplant, nice size eggplant right here. I've already washed it. I am just gonna slice it down the middle. Super simple, they're not hard to cut. If you've never looked inside an eggplant, look at them, so pretty. So we're gonna put this down because to get it started, we just gotta roast it for about 40 minutes in an oven at 425. I'm gonna add just a little bit of olive oil to make sure that it doesn't get too crusty on that bottom. And I'm going to put them this side down, cut side down, making sure I get olive oil on most parts, right? And then I am just gonna put this in the oven at 425 for 40 minutes. Now that we have our eggplant done, it has cooled down. I'm gonna just cut off these tops right here. And then what I'm gonna do now is peel them. So there's a couple different things you can do. Sometimes it'll peel easy, like that's not peeling too bad right now, as you can see. If it's being a little bit difficult, you might turn it over and just undo it with a fork, right? And kind of pull it out of the skin. See how nice and done it is in here? Doesn't that look beautiful? So I'm just gonna kind of squeeze that juice through this colander, because the last thing you want is super soggy Baba Ganoush. So another thing that you could do if you didn't want to squeeze it out or try to get rid of some of this excess liquid this way, the other thing that you could do is you could let it just drip for 15 minutes and just let it automatically come out. Now, because this cooled down so much, I think a lot of that moisture kind of went back. Let me show you. You can see I got a lot out. So that'll make it so your Baba Ganoush is not as soggy as it could be. So the next ingredient I have is 2 tablespoons of tahini paste. If you've not used it before, it is a great addition. Very Mediterranean, very Greek when it comes to a lot of different recipes that you have there. Next I have is some 1.5 tablespoons of Greek yogurt. Just getting that in there, getting as much as possible. And of course I had these all measured out at the beginning, make it a little bit easier. So I have 1 clove of garlic already chopped. If you don't have cloves on hand, I know one of the things I always keep in my refrigerator is minced garlic, so that you always have some on hand in case you haven't had time to go to the store and get some. We're adding 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. It's already got a good flavor going on, I can smell it. Salt and pepper to taste. So I'm gonna add some. I may come back and add more, depending on how it tastes. 1 teaspoon of sumac. If you've never used that before, it's got a really robust flavor. So I'd encourage you to add that. It is not one of your cheaper ones, right? So you don't have to add it, but you can always add that, and you can add more for garnish too. And then 1/4 of a teaspoon of crushed red peppers. If you have someone in your family that really doesn't like heat, then maybe you're not gonna add that, right? You can add more, you can add less as needed. Click in place. So I'm gonna do a couple different pulses. You want this to be nice and thick, so you don't really want to over blend it. Let me see what I got in here. I'm gonna do one quick, can you see? I'm gonna do 1 quick swipe to make sure that we're getting everything in there. I'm gonna do 2 more pulses, a couple more pulses. And we are gonna be done with this part of it, all right? You can see the flavors, the colors, they look amazing. And you may be going, what am I gonna do with this? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do with this. Some people have been known to use it in place of hummus. So anything you use hummus for, you can use a Baba Ganoush for most of the time. But a lot of times it's a dip, but it's got so many nutrients. So you can use it for a lot of different things. So this is gonna be, and this is an easy Baba Ganoush recipe, right? I haven't had to do much work for this at all, but we're not quite done because we are gonna add a little bit more to it. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator or let it sit. I'm gonna keep it refrigerated for about 30 minutes while I cut up like a little tomato cucumber salad to go on top of it so that we're getting all those nutrients. So I'm gonna go stick this in the refrigerator and see you in a few minutes. Well, some people just stop there with their Baba Ganoush. We are not. We are going to add some vegetables to it. And so we are making a easy cucumber, tomato salad or topping to this, to this Baba Ganoush. So we're gonna add it right to the top in just a minute, but we're gonna get this part started while the other is chilling. So you can see I'm just cutting them nice, and so we know, and I'm not doing my best job. So like when you're cutting vegetables, you wanna have your fingers curved. You wanna use a nice knife that you're more rocking, right? And you're gonna keep rocking it and moving this forward. I want them to be thin, so I usually go a little slower. So you may not be seeing my best cuts in my life, but basically we wanna keep it moving, make sure we're not. And the other part is hold your knife up here. Some people feel like they have to hold their knife back here and they don't have as much control. So hold your knife up tight so that you have more control of it and you can really know exactly where that blade is going. All right, that's probably plenty. It said a half a cucumber. Feels like a lot for how much Baba Ganoush we have. So it said to dice it, so you know what I'm gonna do, of course. I'm gonna take, some people would have cut it down ahead of time. It depends on your comfort level and how good you feel about that. I just did 2 quick cuts down there, 2 quick cuts down here. You can see, got this nice small cut going on. I'm gonna do a few more, or not a few more, another stack. So, you know, when you're cutting, some of the things that we want you to do, we want you to have a solid surface, right? So if it's a round component, sometimes people will cut it in half just so they don't have to, they have a solid surface and they're not dealing with it rolling where you're more likely to cut your fingers, right? If it's rolling around. So again, I'm just doing 2 cuts that way. And that one's fallen a little bit. And then 2 cuts that way. And I've just got cucumber, such a fresh cucumber. It looks so good, right? What a great summer, springy complement salad, right? Because you and I both know any moisture, any hydration we can get in the summer is good. And cucumbers are just so fresh and so refreshing. Yes, we know you can add cucumbers to water or anything like that, but man, adding it to a salad where you're getting so many nutrients and you're just making a great fun, but think about it this way. You're adding it now to a dip. How great is that? I love dips. I am a dip girl. If I could dip, I mean, I would probably eat just about anything if I could dip it. I'm just that way. So the next thing we're adding is a nice big handful of parsley. So I'm gonna grab some nice fresh parsley, right? There's a lot of different kinds of parsley. This is the one I grabbed this morning. I don't really care about most of these stems. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start peeling them down. The easiest way to do that is to just hold it at the top and then just pull. Sometimes you'll still get some stems in there, but it's the easiest way to kind of get it going. Fresh herbs can be a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing with them. Sometimes I hear people go, am I supposed to cut up the stems? Am I not? You can eat these stems. It's not gonna hurt you, so it's really fine. It's kind of like broccoli, right? Have you ever been like, well, I just eat the head of broccoli, I never eat the stems? Well, the stems have just as many nutrients, and so they're gonna be beneficial too. So it's not that you can't eat some of these stems, but you don't need. So it asks for a large handful, right? So I feel like I have a good chunk right here, large handful, bigger than my hand, or about the size. So now I'm just gonna cut them up, again, holding it nice and close, and then I'm just kind of pushing them through, and I'm just rocking my knife, right? And then I'm gonna move them around, kind of shift them so I'm getting a cut in a different place, and I'm just gonna keep going with that. As I do it, you can see they're getting smaller and smaller pieces, but I'm not working real hard as far as moving it around, trying to find each piece, just kind of cutting straight through it consistently. You can see these pieces right here kind of get pushed to the edge a bunch of different times, so I'm gonna have to put them at the front of the line. You know, right? Everybody doesn't always want to be at the front of the line. This parsley is doing that for me. All right, here I go. I feel like I'm good. Maybe you cut a few more times. Sometimes I just feel like it should be a little smaller. My sister is really meticulous, especially when she's making potato salad, and she will cut and cut until it's the finest thing I've ever seen. I'm not that diligent. I'm more of a throw it together girl, but that's okay. We all have our own style, right? So I've got the parsley and the cucumber in there. I saved my tomatoes for last. Why? Because they're the thing that usually makes my cutting board the wettest, right? Like that happens a lot of different times. So I have some Roma tomatoes today. You can use whatever tomatoes you want. If you have some nice fresh tomatoes from your garden, all the better. You can see these are coming together. It calls for 1 tomato. Roma tomatoes are a little bit smaller than a lot of other tomatoes. Based on what we have, I got 2 out in case I felt like I needed more. I didn't want the cucumber and the parsley to overpower it. So I have, so nice. Look at it, just cutting right through. You know, the other thing that you really need to pay attention to with your knives is you need them to be sharp. Because I know that sounds crazy, but more people hurt themselves with a knife that is not sharp than with a nice sharp knife. You're working so much harder than it cutting it for you that you end up hurting yourself by putting all your weight on it. I think I'm gonna do 1 more tomato based on the amount of cucumber and parsley that's there. Now, when it comes down to being done with the Baba Ganoush, what are you gonna use it? What are you gonna do with it? Well, a lot of times I will get out crackers, or I'll get out some bread, or I will get out my other favorite vegetables. For example, if you have bell peppers, they make great scoops and have a lot of nutrients to them too. So you could use bell peppers as your scoops. You could use celery as your scoop. You could use a lot of different things to be your whatever, to your avenue to get them in there. So this is what I have so far. You can see it's just a nice, fresh looking salad. Now you can eat it itself, or you can do it where you pair it with the Baba Ganoush like I'm doing. I am going to add my sumac for a little flavor. And that was about a ½ teaspoon. I'm gonna splash some lemon juice on because we know that makes it all the more fresh. And a little salt and pepper, just to make sure we've got some seasoning. And I'm gonna top that and then just a little drizzle of olive oil. Just a little bit to make that work. And this olive oil is so good for you. Is just beautiful looking, right? Doesn't it look so fresh? This is mostly ready. I will be back in a minute to add this to my Baba Ganoush, and then we'll do a quick taste test. Brought my Baba Ganoush back out. Look at it, looks beautiful, looks ready to go. We've made this cucumber tomato salad to go on top of it, right? You would normally just garnish it, put it on top. You might put on more, you might put on less, or you might leave it as 2 separate things that people can add together when they do it. I'm gonna top it with some toasted pine nuts, just pine nuts, just to be clear. And so we're gonna have that. Now, if I were doing this for mine, again, like I said a little bit ago, you might do it where you're not using crackers. Maybe you're gonna use bell peppers, celery, you might use carrot sticks, you can use anything you want. I have crackers, so that's what I'm gonna put it. You can see that I just put a little bit together. I wanna get some on my cracker, and I wanna make sure I have some of the tomatoes and a little bit of parsley. I want that flavor on there, so that I can have it. And then you're ready to go. It's a great snack you can eat all the time, and I hope you enjoy it.